All right. I don't know if you do that before or after. We'll call the August Signal Mountain Planning Commission meeting to order. We have at least one new face up here tonight. If they'd like to introduce themselves and give a little brief rundown on your esteemed resume of how you made it to this
how I made it here.
Fancy positions.
Okay. How I made it here. Okay, I'm Brent Morris. I've lived here for about 25 years in Chattanooga and the environment for about 70. And I made an application about 3 years ago and nothing happened. And then about a week ago, I looked at the agenda and I was on it.
There you go.
But, okay, but I'm glad to help. I'll be learning as we go.
Well, you brought up a very important point about how we get information distributed amongst both the committee members and the public. And it's you have to practice quite a bit of diligence to make sure that we meet all of the amended agendas, including minutes and and also, well, right. I'm referring to some of Charlie's things as well. But yeah, we've had a standing point. Well, that's not an agenda item. We can talk about that later with other business. All right, has everyone had a chance? I was very late in reviewing and typing minutes in the absence of the secretary. We'll blame Ethan, but we did get those to Garrett, and Garrett did promptly send those out. Did everyone have a chance to review minutes?
Yes.
Right, we have at least a few. Does anyone have any corrections that need to be made or any other comments on it?
I thought they looked accurate. So I'll move to, what do I say? Accept them?
Approve the minutes?
Approve them.
Okay.
I'm rusty.
All right. So Susanna, motion, Charlie second. Everyone in favor of approval of minutes?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. All right. First item, Mountain Land Company, final plat. And we have, it appears Mr. Reamer is here to tell us how he drew all his lines on the paper. Garrett, what are we approving? You want to give us a quick summary? You would rather what? Rather the applicant give the summary. Is the applicant here? Who is the applicant? Or his representative? Perfect.
Mr. Reamer.
Mr. Reamer, please. And you state your name and where you're from, even though you're not on signal anymore.
Roger Reamer, 714 Cherry Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee, land surveyor with ASA Engineering. We've got 4 lots on Florida and Ohio, and we're combining them and making 2 lots. One lot we're dividing in half, adding it to the neighbor, the Carters. The other half, adding it is going to stay with the present owner. I guess the big issue is the right-of-way and how we're going to show that. The original plat calls for an 80-foot or 70-foot right-of-way, 40 feet on the south side or north side, 30 feet on the south side. There is a development on the other side of Ohio that calls for the 70-foot right-of-way as well, and they've got some corners that we found that do not match the original subdivision plat that was recorded back early in the century, last century.
Say it ain't so.
What's that?
Say it ain't so.
So what I show on the plat is the original subdivision plat lots and where the road right-of-way was platted. There's an old wall, there's corners that we found in the back that the sideline distances match to that right-of-way. So we've just held to that right-of-way. I've shown also on here the existing pavement and where that sits, how far north of the site it is. I guess the question would be, do we hold and record the plat as is, or what we would like to do, and then later maybe make some adjustments to the right-of-way, but I can't abandon, I guess, a right-of-way without an ordinance and going through all those. So we're showing it where it was platted.
So, to my knowledge, and this is what we spoke about earlier, but I don't think, at least, I'll say I wasn't clear, is that the issue isn't the right-of-way, it's just the shown street center line. The right-of-way shouldn't change at all. No abandonment of any property, there's no property changing at all, it's just literally the street center line. And so my issue is that the Ohio Avenue center line is drooping to the south a little bit when the paved center line is what's technically the street center line. That's what should be the street center line. So that's what I was requesting be changed.
Okay, so leave the right-of-way where it is,
Yes, sir.
and then take the center line off of that,
Right, and just match it with the paved
and
center
just,
line.
and show the center line as the center line of pavement, and we'll show some distances to that.
Yes, sir.
That's. You good with that?
If everybody's agreeable on that, then everything, all the other comments have been addressed, and it meets the minimum requirements of the subdivision regulations. I recommend approval for it, once that's changed.
All right, we can make that change, and I need to make a change to the recording block too. And GIS has requested a change to their stamp there to the geotechnical department.
I caught almost none of that. So what do you think is the older evidence? You think the road or those corners you found?
Well, there's an old wall. I think the road was built and put wherever they wanted to put the road at the time. They thought this is a good spot for it.
Yeah.
The subdivision plat was recorded already. It has twists and turns in it, and the road is straight. It's just, there's a matter of, there are going to be some, I guess, at some point, we want to go through and abandon the portion of right-of-way that's not within 30 feet of the existing center line, because the original plat calls for a 70-foot right-of-way, 30 feet on our side, 40 feet on the other side. The problem with putting 40 feet on the other side is you're going to be coming through, there's 4 homes right there, and you're going to be in their front yards or front porches.
With, what was this, former lot 1, former lot 2, is the acreage tabulated less when you use the platted offset from center line than what's measured in the field?
As far as the acreage is, if we held to a center line parallel to the center line of the existing pavement, come over the 35 feet, which would be an average of a 70-foot right-of-way, it actually increases the size of what's going to be revised lot 1, but decreases the size of revised lot 4, because it'll cut into the corner there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Garrett. So tell me again what change to this you think's most appropriate?
I don't think, and nowhere have I seen that the right-of-way is changing in this. It's going to stay 70 feet. The issue is that the Ohio Avenue center line that's shown doesn't match up with the paved center line.
Right.
In my mind, in my opinion, my recommendation is to make that one street center line. So in other words, match the Ohio Avenue center line up with the shown paved center line that's actually there, which would be, I guess, 60 feet on one side and 10 feet on another. It's not even, but that's what's actually there.
I think if we use the center line of the pavement, the corners that we found on the other side of the street, one is 18 feet from the center line, and one's about 22 feet from the center line. So it's at a slight angle.
Yeah, so those 4 houses to the north, their back corners are probably right. Their front corners are encroached on where the actual pavement is.
Well, yes, yeah. Because if there's a 70-foot right-of-way on that pavement, then you're only half of that, 35. They're half of that, 18 feet in one and 22 in the other.
Yeah, I don't know how you fix that. I mean, he's got drawn what the plat showed in 13, and he's just abandoning lines based on that, right? And we've got an extremely wide right-of-way that functionally used, you got a driveway across it, and then you got a front yard, basically, right?
Right.
Because the actual center line's another 25 feet that way.
Right, and on the other side of the wall that's shown on there too is lawn. I mean, it's used as lawn as well.
Well, this is probably fine. I mean, they pay taxes on less acreage.
Right,
But they
I'm not
have
questioning-
access to additional land because the road didn't lay out where it was platted.
Right,
in
I'm not
1913.
questioning the boundaries of the property, I'm just questioning this actual street center line as it's shown. But that doesn't reflect what's physically on the ground.
Oh, yeah, no.
Now do we need to just remove it all or just mark it as platted center line and then actual center line?
Right, so I mean, have Ohio, on the paved center line as it's shown, mark that as Ohio Avenue, show that as a center line for Ohio Avenue. And you might even include a note saying that this is accurate as of today's date, or survey date.
I don't know. Anybody else got an opinion? I got an opinion.
What do the people who live there think?
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, what do the people who live there think about that?
On the north side,
Huh?
on the north side.
We're just gonna gain land. We don't care if the right of way stays the same.
Right, the right-
We're not really worried about that.
In my opinion, the right of way isn't gonna change at all by this point.
Nothing physically changes.
No,
No.
just the
Just the
adjacent
plat.
property boundary,
Yeah.
abandoning the 4 lots into 2.
What?
That's all that's changing, not the right of way.
Yeah, and I think it's probably better to stick with the original platted subdivision that he has shown here, the center line per plat book, and then show that he has a paved center line that lives above that. The fact that the road doesn't live squarely within, well, that's what we don't know if there was a scratched out road prior to 1913, right? But we do have at least calls and descriptions for boundaries for this in 1913. So that is the center line per the plat, even though it doesn't live there physically. I think I'd probably rather stick with the legal description and let the road live where it does. And you end up having developed houses already built across the street that encroach in the right of way, if this was right. But we can't fix that. The house is already there and the road's already there. So unless Boyd wants to move the road, no, Boyd does not want to move the road. To me, the way this is drawn details what's in the field the way that I'd want to see it, I think. Just an opinion.
What's the legal impact of one way versus another? You're looking at the town lawyer.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's the
If you were
what's the
to,
importance of doing it the way Garrett's proposing or the way it's drawn out now.
In my opinion, a plat is supposed to show exactly what's on the ground and what the current conditions are. That's my standpoint, but I see James as well.
well, the property owner's on the property line, and it's driven by the plat description, unless they're modifying that, which they aren't. If you demoed those 4 houses north of the street, if somebody wanted to come back in and you had to find the actual right-of-way, you would find that they would be allowed to build nearer the street than we would intend for it to be, because the center line of the street is shifted north in the right-of-way. But I don't think anybody's gonna tear those 4 houses down in our lifetime, so I'm not worried about it. And
Four
even
houses
with,
you're
even,
talking about are
but-
the ones on this side of the street.
yeah, these 4 up here, that right-of-way does not live there, the way GIS has it shown.
Mhm.
But the houses aren't built based on the center line of the street.
Right.
They're based on the setbacks of the property line that's from this.
Well, and it's not really the burden of this property owner well, it kind of is, to tie in the corners of your adjoiners. But you said you found the front corners for the adjoiner across the street are actually set 18 feet further, I guess, back than what they should be based on the platted I mean, not the plat, I'm sorry, the, well, yeah, the original plat book reference from the subdivision.
Right. Yeah, the one directly, Lot 2, Rainbow Lake Edition, directly across is 18.4 on one corner to the center line of the pavement, and then 22.5 to the center line of the pavement. So it's, you know, it's close.
Yeah, but the applicant's not the north property owners, it's the south property owners.
Yeah.
And I don't think this hurts them. This actually helps them because we would be recognizing the center line where it should be, not where it is. So they would have the opportunity to argue that they should be able to enjoy the full extent of their property despite what the survey information might show, the survey evidence in the field.
You're talking about the house on the north side.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I don't have any issue at all with anything on the south.
Could you change the requirement for the setback for those two pieces of property?
Ooh, I mean, I guess you could.
Well, I mean, they do make changes in setback requirements, and that
Yeah.
would leave everybody in place and whole.
I agree. The way this plat's shown, he's showing that the center line per plat book is shifted this way, which
Right.
gives them more room, which is fine.
Right.
If we respect the boundary of the existing pavement, which is the least valuable improvement between the two properties, well, arguably some utility, then you get into that issue. But if we accept it this way, I don't see an issue. Again, my opinion. Happy to accept others.
And presumably, there has not been any downside to this point on the north side of the paved center line, meaning need for a bigger right-of-way on the north side. Did you say there was like 10 feet? 10 feet on the north side?
On the north side, to the if we hold to the original right-of-way, there is portions of it that cross over into their property and parts of it that come out away from their property.
I kind of am with Jamie, if you just draw it, if you have it drawn how it's supposed to be and note that this is how, where the center line should be based on the road, but here's how it's based on.
Here's where it
Just
is.
have, both things noted on the plat, seems to make sense, I guess.
It seems to have the least potential to have a legal impact on either property owner.
Right.
Now, it doesn't appear Mr. Carter would have room for a front yard carve out, as Mr. Sonnenberg described. What do we suspect the likelihood that, was it Mr. Morris would be interested once he abandons his lot line, then to redefine it and build a house in a front yard carve out, as we discussed last meeting?
Which one's the Carter property?
Morris is, yeah.
Morris is the little house, Carter's the big house.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a little tongue in cheek, but it is part of what we've been discussing. If we take a smaller lot, make a bigger lot, and then re-subdivide it in a way so somebody can shoehorn a house
Yeah.
in there, that's not, it didn't appear to be, let's say it this way. That was a topic discussed at our last meeting. I won't make any distinction about what the,
Well, we are taking the 4 lots and creating just 2 from
Right.
those, abandoning the lot lines. And lot 4 will be limited somewhat, revised lot 4 will be limited somewhat with the WWTA sewer that runs through the middle of the property.
yeah, they would have to get groundwater.
Why is this being done?
The purpose, where it's hard, the purpose is so that no one can build between J. Morris and I. That's, the purpose is so no construction, to keep the park-like environment between the two homes.
I applaud that.
What, own the two. Who owns the one in between? Morris. Oh, okay. So you're buying land from Mr. Morris? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, lot 3, or the former lot 3 is the one it's owned by Mr. Morris, that'll be split.
Yeah. Well, there's a drainage easement cut through there, so that would have to be mitigated. Sir?
Yeah, that's per this plat.
Per this plat?
Requested by Mr. Fight.
Well, that's probably useful. I'm sure your neighbors on Georgia are happy that y'all are willing to do that. I don't have any other questions. Garrett, any other notes to make? Town staff, is there any other information to consider? Put you on the spot? No?
No, I just, as long as we're clear on if anything needs to be revised or the motion. I don't know if we ever landed yes or no there, other than that.
Well, I'd be willing to move to accept as submitted here.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other information to include or discussion to be had? You feel okay? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bremer. I'm sorry. I think the call out's funny. I'm glad it was a point of discussion, but center line right away doesn't match up with pavement center lines. Oh yeah, you reckon? That happens sometimes, doesn't it? Excellent. All right. Well, this feels productive. Item number 3, review bond for Wildridge Phase 2B. What does Mr. Wildridge need?
They are beginning another phase, Phase 2B. It's a very small portion. And the subdivision reg process requires that once a bond is determined, that the planning commission accept it. I'm not really sure. We've done this before. It says exactly how you do it, but then says you guys still have to accept it. So that's what we're here to make sure you're comfortable with. We did look at, we had a licensed contractor, someone who we actually use some as well, is their contractor, and gave an actual quote on the reclamation cost for the road, and that's really all we're dealing with because at this point there is no other bonding required. So just the reclamation of that roadway area of $7,250. The regulations require that we get a bond at 125% of that, which is $9,062.50. They have provided a irrevocable letter of credit to stand as that bond. We looked at the last one that the Planning Commission accepted, and it scales properly to this one in terms of cost and everything. So just present that as our recommendation for this bond and ask that the Planning Commission simply vote to accept that so we can move forward with the development agreement.
When the extension of time question came up so many months back, we had recommended, and I think voted to go to council to recommend that staff be allowed to make that decision. Was bonding a part of that recommendation? It was not. It was
on phasing and timing of the development only.
Okay.
That is something we could take up in the future, but as it stands right now, Again, it's spelled out pretty specifically, but then still requires this step. And if you guys wish to retain that, that's fine, but don't know that's necessary, but while it's still on the books, that's what
That's how
we're
it
doing.
goes. All right. Does anyone have any questions in regards to bonding for Wildberry?
I think it seems pretty straightforward to me.
No questions.
Okay, do we have a motion in regards to the item?
Motion.
We're moved to accept the bond for Wild Ridge Phase 2B as recommended by staff.
Second.
We have a second. No other discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
All right, item number 4, our subdivision regulation amendment public hearing. As I understand, this is on the submittal and review deadlines that was presented, discussed, and ultimately mostly decided on, despite the fact that we were unaware that we hadn't followed one last formality, which was to announce the public hearing and to represent the information here. So if we have had an opportunity to read the minutes from last meeting, agenda item number, let's see, when did it come up? 5. Mr. Ryan had made a motion and a seconded to approve the schedule language. We voted unanimously, but we had not made that vote during a public hearing, so that we confirmed the public hearing had not been posted. We rectified that for August. Now we're here to reconsider and approve that portion of the language only. Would y'all like to reread the language in question? Yes. Okay. And
just for the record, you do need to open the floor for public comment.
okay, great. Well, let's read it so we're all reading from the same book. And then, man, I hate that I spent less time than I am now interested in the amount of Ohio Avenue centerline information you prepared. I'm sorry. Formally, I'm sorry. Let's see here. That's the next item. Yeah, resolution to amend subdivision regs for the town of Signal pertaining to preliminary and final plat submittal procedure and deadline. This was originally drafted 14 to 18 months ago. It was a component of the preliminary and final plat requirements, but there was a conflict reported by staff in some of the deliverable and review dates. So section 2, the application procedure and requirements, is amended. Does everyone have access to that, or do you want me to read it out loud? Everybody seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's only important to say that there are still components of, I think, preliminary and final plat that we may still consider to look at, but as this vote is concerned, this public hearing is concerned, it's expressly for the point of revising the language for when they must be presented to staff, how long to review it, and when it's then presented to the commission. It's just the handling of deliverables and the schedule for both preliminary and final plat. And again, we had all voted to approve previously and erroneously.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have to open the floor to the public. Presumably, the public is present to make a comment in regarding the schedule language. We have a no and a no. How much time do you want me to leave it open, Boyd? I think we're good. All right, so we've had the opportunity for the public to speak, and we have a motion to move on the language as presented.
I'll second.
We have 2 seconds, needing only 1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, look at there. As just one mention, we seem to, well, I haven't yet come up with a way to reliably know that these recommendations to councilors are being carried forward. I might suggest that it's a responsibility of the representatives on the commission to assume that it's taken up.
Yeah.
But if there's something that I can do to help y'all do that, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
It's probably reasonable to show up at the next town council meeting after a recommendation council's made out of the commission.
This is a subdivision reg change, so that is entirely to this body. This doesn't go to council.
So as soon as you sign this and Ethan signs it, I'll change the document and it'll be final.
Oh,
Okay.
Now,
well, that'll be
the
Ethan
next-
signs it, right?
The next item for discussion will be a change to the zoning ordinance, and that will be a recommendation to the council.
Yeah.
All right. We have great counselors here to inform us when to consult with council and not. I'm thankful for that. So item 5, subdivision regulation amendment, preliminary final plat deadline. What is that second order of business for item 5?
That was supposed to be the actual vote for it, but I think we covered both items.
All right, very good. We knocked out 4 and 5 together. Moving into item 6, zoning ordinance amendment, discussion on what is LDR district minimum lot size. And I see that we have copies of both conservation district language and presumably the ill-fated table that came up.
So what I printed off today to make sure everybody's aware is specific sections of the zoning ordinance as it pertains to the items in the zoning ordinance amendment. So that way, going through the review of that, you can actually see what it says currently versus what I'm proposing. So,
Very good. And may I be very petty in mentioning that it would have been my intent to have reviewed this under a workshop setting, not in an actual meeting. Stop being a baby for the night. All right. Would you like to hit the high points for us?
sure. And so I also included a map. This is pulled for lot sizes in Signal Mountain, broken down by actual lot sizes. So you'll see that, I mean, it's color coordinated lots under an acre, lots 1 to 4.99 acres, lots 5 to 10 acres, and lots over 10 acres. So what this ordinance does, I mean, it was my understanding that the intent behind this ordinance was to reduce the carve-outs, as you call them, from having developers come in and carve out the absolute minimum lot size just to make a profit. I took that language and drafted this ordinance to essentially eliminate the minor subdivision specification under residential zoning districts, and which was the only allowable portion for half an acre. That makes sense. So essentially this ordinance makes all lots in a residential zoning district 1 acre, 43,560 square feet. So this ordinance addresses that, and it also addresses the double asterisk regarding infill lots and the quote, most frequently occurring front setbacks on the street and existing subdivisions. So it also tandemly tackles that issue as well that we had previously.
So you've eliminated from that table in section 614.03, you've taken that double asterisk statement out altogether.
Correct. Also in 603.0202.
So does that remove all of the, remove all of the locations that the word infill comes up in the ordinance?
To my knowledge, that was the only language, that was the only place that had infill on.
So then we don't have to further define what a minor subdivision or distinguish between it or conventional.
Correct. So minor subdivisions are still allowed, they're still allowed. They're defined in the subdivision regulations of, I believe, 5 lots or under.
So as I understand, we maintain small lots of record. So if you have an existing lot today that's less than these requirements, it's a small lot of record, and it has a means by which we prorate geometric restrictions.
That's section 817.
We also maintain Board of Zoning Appeals and Signal, whereas if you had a smaller lot, you could present that. You could build on a smaller area.
Would that be a BZA issue? If you had a small lot of record, isn't it just automatic?
Not a small lot of record. I'm just saying, we didn't have a mechanism in place formally to prevent anything being subdivided in less than half an acre. But we do still have a mechanism in place for people to access their land through an appeal where it doesn't fit the subdivision reg direction.
Sure, that'd be a minimum lot size variance.
Right.
Which the hardship would be the small lot of
Right,
record.
that's right.
So, that's something, one of the things we ran into before, there was a division elsewhere, 4 small lots of record, so that their required setbacks are reduced at the same ratio of their lot size to minimum lot size, which will now be an acre. So we need to change that, because before, with the minor subdivision in there, then the minimum was half acre. So if you had a 1/4 acre lot, the setbacks would be cut in half.
That's right.
If the minimum is an acre,
That's right.
you're gonna be cut to a 1/4 of what's now required, so we may need to revisit that.
So section 4 of this ordinance provides that language. That's where I addressed section 817 and essentially removed minor subdivision out of that.
Where is that?
In the drafted ordinance, it's section 4,
Oh,
where it says revised section 6030203
Yeah.
to read as follows. Essentially, I removed minor subdivisions out of that.
So if conventional is the 43,560, right? Which is an acre.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're using that acre minimum to calculate setback for small lot of record, that means you're gonna get a much more reduction.
That's right, yeah. 6030203 currently says dimension regulations for minor subs as shown shall be used to determine required setbacks. And let's see, where does it say?
do you have section 817 handy?
Yeah. I can pull it up.
Yeah, so what you're saying is from that 100, you're gonna drop to 25.
Like, instead of dropping from, let's say
Well,
the frontage,
yeah, street frontage on a minor was 100.
it's the setbacks that it applies to. So your 40, none of these are easy to get. 40-foot setback would go to 20 before. Now it's gonna go to
10, yeah.
The minimum lot size for the conservation is 1/4 of an acre, so maybe we should just make the small lots of record be the same setbacks as a conservation setback.
That's why you're looking at section 817.
Yeah.
Could you repeat again, why is it we are changing or proposing to change the minimum lot size to a full acre?
Right, so it's my understanding that the planning commission wanted a mechanism to eliminate developers, which I feel like the person who said it wants to speak up.
Yeah. I just think it's important to say that there was at least one opinion of the commission that did not want that to be the case, that said the claim was that most communities would be very supportive of 1/4 acre development. And I haven't either confirmed or found a reason to suggest that that's not the case. It's just not the position that I've taken. So Garrett has taken the time to create this language based on the general tenets, try to frame the discussion that was had at last meeting for us to be able to better refine what we meant by that and whether or not it was popular or not. So this may be complete garbage if it's not our opinion.
I just don't recall discussing changing the minimum lot size in the last meeting. It could be before my time, but I don't recall us discussing that in the last meeting.
Had the minimum lot size been larger than what this current minor subdivision is, we would not have had the condition where a person could buy an established house that lives on 1.5 acres and basically either create a flag lot or a front yard carve out or whatever you want to call it, make a subdivision, albeit minor or conventional, whatever you want to call it. That you can buy 1.5 acres, you're fully developed all around it, cut out a 1/2 acre and build a house in your front yard. And so as a reasonably, this is a way that we could do that. And I believe it used to be prior to this adoption in 2013, correct me if I'm wrong, Boyd, I think everything was 1 acre prior to 2013.
I don't remember the years. We basically went through this process and ran into the same issue with small lot record. And then for minor subdivisions, it converted back to 1/2 acre. And I don't remember exactly when that was or the specifics of the order of events, but that affects what happened.
With this, if you had a 1/4 acre lot, small lot of record, does that make the setback 5 feet?
As it is technically now, if you have a 1/4 acre lot, the setback, all of the setbacks are cut in half. Because the minor subdivision current minimum is a 1/2 acre. So if you have a lot that's half that size, all of the setbacks are then half.
Right. But if you made it an acre, then the setback would then be 25%, right? And so 25% of 20 is 5.
If 817 is not.
Yeah, the current minimum lot is a 1/2 acre in a conventional subdivision. It's even smaller in a conservation. So if a lot of record is smaller than the current minimum, which is currently a 1/2 acre, then that ratio is determined off of that 1/2 acre.
Off the 1/2 acre, not
That's right. And that's the point that Boyd's bringing up, that if we are to consider this language, then we only have 1 acre to work off of, which does give them
So that's
a more significant
pretty small
benefit.
setback.
It is.
Maybe what you could say in 817 is just, your language and then say, subject to, but no less than the setbacks for conservation, the minimum setbacks.
I would just,
That may handle it best.
Don't change. I think if this is what you want to do, and if it says that we're going to use the conventional subdivision as the basis for the calculation, then just put minimums in there. This is what we'll do, but under no circumstances shall.
But no less than.
Be less than this, and this.
Yeah, I'd almost want to go through this same exercise. So the purpose of this map was to show the number of times lots greater than 1 acre. The number of lots kind of in our Old Town area, which is a point of area of focus for me. They may be 1.1, they might not be 1.5, but it's not quite that discrete a map. But everywhere you've got a brown parcel in Old Town, if we currently maintain a minor subdivision of a 1/2 acre, then there's an opportunity for people to sort of shoehorn in houses in between. And not every time is that bad, but I feel pretty strongly that we really don't want that last shoehorned parcel to occur again. It's just my opinion, and I'm happy to be voted down for that.
Most people who voice their opinions feel the same way.
Yeah, and BOZA still gives you the opportunity you could still presumably, maybe not in the current political climate or the current standing members of the board, but BOZA does give this town the opportunity to consider allowing developments like that. But right now, we have no control. Right now, this town has no control over that happening, and it was a condition that we found that we didn't like. So this is a way to fix that. It probably creates some foreseen and maybe a couple unforeseen consequences. But I think making the planning portion harder and then having to go through an appeal process to achieve it while maintaining language for already small lots of record. This is not taking away rights from people who already own smaller than 1 acre lot. This is only keeping people from subdividing in established areas, really smaller and smaller sections to fit houses in between.
Right, I've seen that happening actually in Walden. I know 3 instances.
And arguably, I mean, Hamilton County just approved, they're going to quarters. So, I mean, they're going the opposite direction. Not to say it's good or bad.
After you talking through it, I'm feeling a lot better about what you're
Okay.
doing now.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
It still leaves the opportunity on a case-by-case basis to
Appeal.
appeal. But it says now we have controls, which is in the last meeting, we found ourselves, something could potentially happen that we didn't believe was in the best interest of the town,
That's right.
but we had no choice.
That's right.
And now we will have a choice.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, it makes
I think
sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
So if we were to put section 817, we could just put the same numbers that appear in the conservation, just, say that subject to a minimum of front setback this, side setback this, rear setback this, street frontage this.
Yeah, so what is section 800? So that just says if a lot of record, it gives you that definition, but 603.0203 says dimensional for minor as shown. That's the reason you revise that. Where would it make the most sense to put any additional language like Charlie suggested? We're going 603 or 817?
I won't take credit. Boyd's pointed that out, but yeah.
Right,
Seems like
And another thing, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Go ahead.
The thing about this too, we also need to consider that what a small lot of record is also going to change. A small lot of record is a lot that's smaller than our current minimum.
That's right.
So in this case, if minimum's an acre, then a half acre now qualifies for the reduction, and that, we don't want that. So we would have to better define what a small lot of record is and limit it to anything like below a quarter of an acre, below a half an acre. Yes.
Well,
It can be done, we just.
do we need a better review of the map to identify, like instead of less than an acre, acre to 5 acres, do we need to look at a map with all the small lots of record, everything that fits under a half now, and then come up with everything that would fit under 1 later, presumably? Also look at anything that's 1.5 or larger only, because really that's not to be too, that was the concern,
I
right?
mean, you could do it with 1 acre, couldn't you? Just carve out a half an acre, and you have 2 half-acre lots.
Yes.
Yeah, the 1 acre would fit.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how many, so there's an awful lot of white in there. That's lots less than an acre.
I think the only thing we really need to do is just state that an existing small lot of record of less than half an acre may have reduced setbacks, but no circumstances will it be below these levels.
Well, we have a minimum coverage for the acreage, but that gets adjusted too in the geometric controls. Is there a minimum structure size just across the board in Signal? Like, can you build a 600 square foot house? So if 1250 is the line, then based on this requirement, as you move down on the small lot of record, at what acreage do you cut off at 1250 for your maximum coverage of the lot? Just put it in Excel real quick and figure it out for you.
48. 4,800.
Come on, man, what do we pay you for? Sir?
Wouldn't it be 4 times 1250?
Is that the relationship of coverage? I guess
40
maximum lot coverage is right there,
Well,
isn't it?
Divide
you want an
1250
Excel
by
spreadsheet?
0.4. I can't do that in my head like this.
312.50.
Oh, this is dangerous. There are a bunch of calculators out here.
I thought I had an Excel program on my phone.
All right, 1,250 feet is 35% of what?
Well, divide by 2. Okay.
Is that right?
What were you saying?
Is
I
that
gotta
right?
write this
Is that
down.
right?
I gotta write this. this math problem down. What is it?
3,571.
3,571.
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's a
And,
really small lot, isn't it?
well,
Well,
and
we haven't accounted for the,
on the
setback, yeah,
conservation
add the
lot
setbacks
too,
to
your
that as
street
well.
frontage is going to be 10 feet. Can't even get a driveway. Okay.
yeah, you'd have to drive straight into the garage off the.
What are we talking about right now?
It's a good question.
Shrinks, all shrinking.
Boyd had brought up that if we change small lot of record reference from minor to major, then the amount of reduction of setback is in a quarter, not a half, potentially.
Right.
Well, that's using the example of a quarter acre lot,
Right.
or there may be even smaller
But
than
I think
that.
we're moving past that.
Are we?
Yeah. So the next suggestion was change the definition of what is a small lot of record to be anything under a half an acre, under a half an acre.
Not necessarily, I don't know if there is a definition of that in the definitions. Just state in that 807 that any small lot of record of less than a half an acre can get reduced setbacks. Similar language is there, but then put an absolute minimum.
Right.
Does,
I think,
does Gizmo bounce out? Can you get a tabular record of all the information where we could sort based on parcel size and look at how many are out there and how big they are?
I don't know if GIS does, but we can do that.
Y'all can do that.
Well, some of those parcels are combined too.
Right.
I know you've got.
Well, that was the reason I asked the question to the first agenda item was their goal to abandon a lot line and then carve it back out later to fit a house in it? And their answer was no, we're establishing a drainage easement and it's to prevent
Right.
development in between us.
But doesn't that proportional issue affect street frontage? I mean, it affects all of your parameters, doesn't it? I mean, you're gonna have a place that's 5 feet from the road and you got a 10-foot entrance into your house that's on the.
street frontages are already established if they're existing lots. So that is.
Okay, so
That's
that's,
true.
What it is, yeah.
so that's set.
And that definitely came up in that most frequently occurring front setback, but that was expressly for when minor is being developed within existing subdivision, which had a number of debates about how to interpret that language as well. But it's the laudable attempt to try and have everything match as well as you can within the constraints you have, but it's pretty hard to enforce. We came to find. Well, I don't think this would be another public hearing if we elected to move forward with this language or to consider it, right?
Any decision for this language or any decision for amending the zoning ordinance is just a recommendation to the town council. We'll have to pass by 2 readings and have to have a public hearing at one of those meetings.
Would we have to have public hearing as well, or because it goes to council, we don't have to in that case? All right, well, that's a little more dangerous for us, but generally, I'm glad that we had a chance to read it. I'm glad it was drafted. I would like to have, we've got 3 of our most experienced commission members out at this meeting, so we've been passing the buck for nearly a year and a half on the schedule. I think we can pass the buck on this one for a meeting or 2.
So do you want to lump this in with the next workshop, or just have it as a separate ordinance so that it can be total,
Say that again.
do you want to lump this in? So we had planned to actually have the workshop for the preliminary and final plat requirements today, but that didn't flesh out. Do you want to lump this in with that workshop, or do you want to have a separate workshop?
I like workshops. I like computer setup where we can pull up data and answer the questions that we're asking now. Like, what's the smallest lot of record that lives in this side of town? Because if it's 1/8 of an acre, then we've got some language we got to add. If we're all above 1/4, then I think we can probably come up with a way to address it.
And to have the opportunity to make sure there isn't any other language elsewhere that we do something unintended.
Yeah, cross-referencing is good
So,
idea.
so you're saying deal with the small lots of record and this in a subsequent workshop, and then make the recommendation to the.
Well, we had the standing request, and I initiated from BOZA through council back to representatives from council to look at this table, which is, what, I still don't have the numbers right, 6030202. We were already asked to look at that language a number of months ago. We had tried to get a workshop together. Based on last meeting's occurrence, it was mentioned that you could also fix that by changing minimum lot size. If we do that, that does fix the workshop agenda item, but it introduces a few other things to discuss.
Okay. So we're good with what we have now. We just need to do a workshop on small lots of record and any other unintended consequences.
I would agree with the statement that we will be good with this after doing a thorough analysis of small lots of record and other associated language that may be impacted.
Okay.
And it would fix both problems.
It would.
Are we setting a date for a workshop, or do we have one already?
We certainly can set a date. We do not have a date in the future for a workshop.
Right, we don't have a planned date for a workshop. I can send out an email and ask for everybody's availability.
We haven't been real good at attending them yet.
We set one.
Well, the last one was set on Good Friday or something, wasn't it?
It was Saturday. There was going to be biscuits. No excuse.
I was available. I was looking forward to the food. No, yeah, maybe we can, the 5 of us who are here, propose 2 dates, and then send an email out to everyone to say, this one works, this one doesn't, or both are okay.
Yeah, reasonable.
All right,
Anybody want to guess a date?
everybody get your calendars out.
Is this how long is this? What's our time frame?
I wouldn't expect it to be more than an hour,
Okay.
right?
For this specific item, that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
At least to start with.
So the next recognized holiday is what, Labor Day?
Yes, on the 6th.
Okay.
The 28th and the 4th are both open for me, I think. 28th of August. Of course, this is my problem. I never make plans because my wife already, she makes the plans. I'm always wrong when I make a plan. I go back home and she's like, oh, we're already doing something then. But anyway.
So are we talking a Saturday?
Yeah.
Yuck. I don't know. I'm scared to commit to either of those.
The 28th can work for me.
mean, we can do it early relatively and.
I can do the
knock it out.
28th early.
I think
That
I
would
can
actually-
do
that would work
28th
okay.
too.
Which month are we talking about?
August,
Okay.
August 28th.
All right, so we have one day, so does anybody want to come up with another day? I mean, it doesn't have to be on a Saturday, I suppose, but.
Yeah, the goal has always been to entice people with a Saturday so that we can skip the regular meeting the following month, but that, I've found that people double dip on me when we do that, so I don't know if I'm willing to dangle that carrot and shit. With Labor Day being that weekend, you might want to bump to the next.
Oh, because of the 4th, yeah.
Moon River is the 11th.
Yeah, I'm booked. Although that, you could come in the morning.
Madison Cunningham's playing earlier that day.
Oh,
For Wilco. So. Well, yeah, I'll throw out the 9th. That's a Thursday, like an evening. Does that work?
yep.
Yep,
Fine with me.
that works for me.
Okay. So we have early August, the 28th. What does that mean? 9:30, 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock? What y'all want to do?
I mean, I'm up early.
The
So.
earlier the better.
Earlier the better.
Yeah.
I'm not in that camp, but I can adjust anything.
How
I
about
need to.
8:30?
I'm good with 8:30.
I'm good with it.
All right.
Let's go for
First date,
6.
8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, August the 28th. Second possible time, 6 p.m. Thursday, September the 9th.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I'll send that out.
Sure.
We'll see what everyone else can do.
Sounds good.
All right, we have a last item, hearing of persons having business before the commission. We have one. Please come forward.
Hi,
Hi, state your name and your address.
John Foreman, 209 North Palisades Drive.
Okay.
And just want me kind of go, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Feel free, thank you.
Basically, I live up here on Signal, obviously. Been up here, I mean, I grew up a little bit, high school, college in the 90s. Worked for Charlie and Harry while I was in college here, so. Got married, moved away, and when I moved back, I guess we've lived here about 10 years now, moved back and have 3 kids, and we had a 1-story home, and we turned it into a 2-story home in the past 2.5 years, long process. But during that time, we created a patio to the side of our house and have like a little metal covered porch on it. And basically, it's a little metal roof, but after I did it, I was told, oh, that's too close to the setbacks. You can't have that. So we said, okay. So we said we had to scale it back, talk to the inspector, we scaled it back. I made the mistake of understanding the information incorrectly, and that once you had the inspection done, you could kind of do whatever you wanted. And so we put it back afterwards, and they got a letter saying, nope, you can't do that. And so I've been going through the variance committee, trying to get variance for it, because there was a rule in there kind of stating that, like, if a citizen should be able to enjoy anything that some other citizens enjoy. And there's lots of these around. Mostly, mine's over a patio, like an area to grill, but most of them are like attached to the house like a carport, and they're all over. And so trying to do that, trying to get that passed, but it wasn't looking good. So basically, after talking to quite a few people, talked to the inspector, we said we maybe could detach it or something like that, and maybe present that to the variance committee to see. But it's kind of a common sense thing. It's kind of like, if we detach it, it's still there. So it's like, is it a fire hazard? What's the problem? And I went through and let's see what I did. I went through, I checked with, checked with my insurance company to make sure it wasn't like a fire hazard or anything like that. And they said, no, you're good. Checked with all my neighbors, to make sure none of them had a problem with it. And they were all like, oh, no, it's beautiful. We love it. It's great. You did great. And so then, and then obviously the rule stating that, citizens should be allowed to have something other people enjoy. However, that was not, I don't think, enough for the Business Variance Committee. So, but there is, and this is what I'm here for tonight, to long story short, in Hamilton County, they have the same rules we do. However, they have an exception to the rule. So they have the same setbacks, you can't have a sun porch or a garage or anything enclosed, but they have an exception to the rule for stuff like this because it, I guess, came up so often, and you have carports and different things, that if it's less than 12 feet tall, open on 3 sides, there's an exception. You can get closer to that setback, and which I fall within all those categories. So, and again, I'm just a citizen, so I don't do this every day. So if you have any suggestions or insight, I'm all for it. However, it just seems to make sense. It's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't seem too bad. I am a real estate agent. I've been a real estate agent for a long time. I work up here. My partner, Lou Ellen Smith, and I do quite a bit of business up here. And I care about the community. Obviously, I've met these guys over here doing sponsoring the parade and different things like that. So I'm not trying to do anything that would, I love this community. I want to keep it beautiful, understand all that. So, but this one kind of is like, this just makes sense. And I think the Business Variance Committee's stuck with, here's a rule, we can't really just break a rule. So
you talking about BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals?
Is that,
Yeah.
And so, yes. And so what I've understood it to be is if I present this to you guys, whether it's this meeting or a couple or whatever, if it makes sense to you guys, and like the Hamilton County has the exception, then maybe we could have that exception as well. And then once it goes past here, I think it goes back to the council. They'd vote on it. And if they vote yes, then I get to keep my roof. If they vote no, then I have to figure something out.
Is it like, who adjudicates Hamilton County's interpretation of what's acceptable as an exception?
I just spoke to the inspector in Hamilton County, and he said, and I guess I could provide the rule if need be, but but he just told me, he said basically and that's what my builder made the mistake of doing it, because he does mostly in Hamilton County. Okay. So he was just thinking to himself like, yeah, this is fine. And he did it. So he wasn't trying to do anything either, but because he's so used to that, but they just said under 12 feet, open on 3 sides.
I think I can answer your question. I don't think I don't think it's something you apply to get an exception. I think it's written
an understood exception
as an exception to the rule.
And I'd be good either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that correct, John? I don't.
I think so. I don't think you have to ask for permission or anything like that. I think it's just understood as long as it's under 12 feet and open on 3 sides. That's my understanding.
Didn't we move a porch wasn't there a porch moved in Windtree that encroached slightly into the front setback? And it would have been open on 3 sides.
Right. Yeah,
so,
I'm sure. I mean,
so our language for what that is.
This is not permitted in our code.
Okay.
Correct.
Right now.
So nothing under roof.
We don't have an exception.
No permanent anything exists outside the footprint of the house within the setback.
Right. Which is, a structure. Oh, I think that's what, permanent structure, is that right, Chuck? Yeah, permanent structure.
And so you're asking us to consider changing ordinance language.
Yes, sir.
Similar to Hamilton County's to accept
Just an exception.
non-walled.
Yes, sir.
Extension.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I guess I'd really want to see what that language said.
Okay.
And I mean,
do I need to just provide that?
Yeah, I mean, is it a county thing or a city, a Chattanooga thing?
Hamilton County Inspector, I'm trying to think of his name. Chuck, do you remember his name? Ronnie.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, if other municipalities have something similar, or if they're like more like what we have.
Well, you give me a homework assignment and I'll be happy to provide whatever I need to.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess the proper or a way of handling this would be find what language, what you're officially going to propose, send that to me. I can revise there. I can submit. I can put you on the agenda next month.
Okay.
Show everyone what he's proposed, what I propose that might be different, and go that route.
And can you, like, when he sends you what Hamilton County has, can you look to see what surrounding areas do?
So maybe some other counties
counties.
as well, or what are you
Or
saying?
municipalities.
Yeah, like, you
Like
know,
Red
Red
Bank.
Bank or Chattanooga or, you know, Lookout Mountain, just to see if something similar exists in those.
I see what you're saying. So, yeah, so Hamilton, but would they,
So if they've written into their,
I see what you mean. So like any other small towns or whatever within Hamilton
Yeah.
County that,
Right.
okay. So-
Yeah, because I know that we have language that's, well, either one expressly calls it out or does not expressly call it out, such that anything on the house is recognized as the house footprint and then it's subject to all the rest of the setbacks.
Right, I think that's.
So I'd want to be really careful about seeing
Right.
what exactly it is you're allowing to go out there.
And I mean,
Encroaching.
could you even put in the language? I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. If you're allowing it, but you still have to get permission or something, where that way you have to be approved.
I would think almost certainly it would have to go through Cliff's
Yeah.
office.
Right, okay. So, yeah, so Hamilton
I mean,
County,
just-
other
just
municipalities.
Guessing on language that I've never read right now, that's what I would say, but I don't know, I mean, it's something to consider. I think I watched your meeting, when you were requesting that. It's,
Yes.
I can see where it would be, I guess, something I'd be interested in figuring
Thank
out a
you.
solution to,
Thank
but
you.
I can't be certain that we could come up with language that would actually facilitate
Right.
that one in particular. So how far into the setback did the construction actually go, Chuck?
You allow about 6 feet, 12, we added another 6 or 7 feet.
Yeah, 6 more feet.
He added 6 feet
So
of
it's like,
construction.
it would be allowed like what was it, like a 6-foot roof part, and then it's another 6 feet now.
Okay, but how close is that to the property line then? 'Cause
It's
you're-
within about 3 feet.
Oh, wow.
It makes, I got pictures if you'd like to see it.
Sure, after we adjourn, I'll take a look at them.
Okay,
If
yeah.
that's, unless anybody else wants to see them.
Yeah, his was a small lot of record, that's what they mean by had a 6-foot reduction for the side setback.
Okay.
He'll be beyond.
Right.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to hearing other language and considering it.
Thank you.
But if you don't have Garrett's email,
Right,
get with him and
Okay.
send him whatever information you can.
Okay.
perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, John.
All right, are there any other members here or any other items to consider? Yes, Garrett has one. What you got?
I'll make it quick. It's one thing we brought up in the May meeting that I think needs to be addressed again is the Wagner property. That's the one where they subdivided or they deeded off, I think it was under 12 acres.
Yes.
And then they created 3, I believe it's just 2 or 3 small subpar lots that don't meet our requirements and they're
Yeah, I
landlocked.
don't think they should have created lots.
Right, and so we just wanted to get that back on everybody's radar, that's still out there, they haven't really addressed anything. I reached out to them, I want to say 2 days ago, just to kind of follow up with it, because it's been at least a month since I'd heard from them.
Well, I could tell you what I think that they should do, but I feel like I'd be overstepping the function of the commission. But yes,
Sure.
yes, it does look like those narrow rectangles added to existing lots would not meet new lots that we'd want to adopt.
So
I agree with your synopsis on that one.
that's all, I'm just putting it on the record that I have reached out to him, trying to nudge him along, because he knows that he needs to revise his plan, he needs to resubmit it.
Okay.
That's all.
Very good. If we've got nothing else, everybody ready to split?
yep.
I'm good.
Yeah,
Thank
move
you.
to adjourn.
Oh, do we need to move to adjourn?
Second.
I think you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go. All right. Let's get out of here. Thanks.